Welcome, 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 all my friends. Welcome to the Recovery Connection. Our podcast is focused on plugging in Ottawa's recovery community. I'm glad you could join us tonight. It's been a conversation that I've been looking forward to for a while. Join us live on Facebook and YouTube at 8 p.m. on the second and fourth Tuesday of every month, where we'll be chatting with friends in recovery and community organizations on topics that are important to us and our local communities. I hope you were able to join us 2 weeks ago with Kate Burkholder-Harris from the Alliance to End Homelessness, and that was a great opportunity to chat about a cause that's really dear to us and the great work that Kate's doing. If you're joining us live, please send us in your questions for the live question and answer segment at the end of the podcast, and that's always a lot of fun to do. So we'll look forward to seeing what you have to say at the end. The Recovery Connection is available on all major streaming platforms such as Spotify, Apple and Google Podcasts. The week after each live episode, so like a week from today, it'll be live on Spotify. Follow us, like us, and share our social media accounts to stay up to date on upcoming conversations, upcoming guests, and news and what's going on at Jericho Road. And visit us at our website. John's made a really fabulous website for you to check out. Go to www.jerichoroad.ca. I love saying that fast. So that's all the preamble stuff out of the way. And tonight we have, I would like to say, a friend of mine.
Hi, Kevin.
Darcy C. And so I was going to let everybody know ahead of time before we got into our conversation that you and I have known each other for how long?
It's been a long time.
It's been a long time.
I'd say over 20, 25 years we've known each other.
I would say probably 25, yeah. So Darcy and I used to hang around together in our younger days, and then
we went to school together.
Went to school together. That's right. Mm-hmm. Yes, at Fisher Park High.
Yes.
And if any of our listeners know Fisher Park High, the actual when it was a high school, not a training school, or the changes that it went through, then you're old enough to
know who we are.
Know who we are. Yeah. So, and then you and I lost contact, and we hooked up again. How long ago has it been?
2 years.
2 years. That's right.
Mm-hmm.
Where did we meet?
We met at St. Basil's Church.
By the book.
By the book in the basement.
By the book in the basement. Yeah. It was an anniversary night, was it not?
It was one of your sponsees.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you came up to me and said,
I think I know you.
Yeah,
I said,
that's right.
I said, do you remember me?
Yeah. And did I at the immediate?
You looked at me and you said, no, I don't know who you are. And I said, it's Darcy.
Yeah.
And then you saw me, and we saw each other, and we had a hug, and
the twinkle in the eye. And
man, it was something amazing.
Yeah.
Like how did we get to that place? Was
this many years later.
Yeah. That's where.
So I guess the first question off the hop is, what brought you to the rooms?
What brought me to the rooms? Desperation. Desperation. I had been out using for a very long time, and out of desperation, I couldn't stay on it anymore. I wanted to get off the ride so many times. But I really didn't know how.
Yeah.
And so it came down to a point when everything fell apart.
Yeah.
And I called up an old friend that I knew that was in the program, and he said, he asked me two questions. First question was, have you been to a meeting? And I said, no. And his second question was, why not? And I did not have an answer for him. So we went to a meeting.
Now, as a side disclaimer, I was not shocked to see you at Basil's, because you and I drank together.
We did.
And if you drank half of what I drank, then it's no big shock that, or the other way
We
around.
needed to be.
We needed to be there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now you had made an attempt to come into the rooms before, right?
Correct. So 25 years ago, I quit drinking alcohol, and the day that I thought that I had hit bottom, I wanted to crawl up into a little ball at the bottom of a hole and die. And I went to see a priest, and he said two things to me. He said, "Darcy, well, since you want to be in the bottom of a hole and die, well, there's only one way to go, and that is up.
Yep.
And probably you're not going to die." So I went into rehab and for a 28-day program.
Yep.
And I thought I learned everything I needed to learn. And at the end of the 28 days, they said, get a sponsor and go to meetings, which I did. But this disease that I have, slowly, after a couple of years, started to say that I didn't need a sponsor, and I didn't need to meetings. And so slowly I pushed away my sponsor, and slowly I stopped going to meetings, and one thing led after another. And
were you doing any step work or anything?
No, nothing. And so I had no tools in the toolbox.
Yeah.
And some stuff happened to me in my life, and it was very painful.
Yeah.
And I had nowhere to go.
Yeah.
And I didn't have a sponsor. I didn't have a home group. I had nowhere to go, except I remember that, if I picked up and I used something, I could get rid of that pain.
Yeah.
And so that's what I did.
Yeah.
And so I started off I just started off with something little. And that took away the edge. And then it just got a little bit more and a little bit more. And I didn't go out for a day or a week or a month or a year. I went out for 18 more years, and I had a great life.
Yeah.
I had things under control.
Yeah.
And slowly but surely, if I didn't work my program or the program, then I was bound for relapse, and that's what happened to me. I relapsed, and I went back out for 18 years.
And you had a few years of white knuckling.
White knuckling, yes, of course.
What was that like?
So the white knuckling,
because it's a term we hear all the time, right?
Right. You work the programs, sort of, kind of, maybe. It's a sort of, kind of, maybe thing. It's really, I'll go to a meeting.
When I want to.
I might put away a couple of chairs when I want to.
Yeah.
Excuse my language, but it's half-ass recovery.
Yeah.
And that's what white knuckling is half-ass recovery, because you're not putting your best foot forward. You're not going to any length to get what these people have. You just think that it's shone upon you, and that since I put the plug in the jug, that life's going to get better.
Yeah.
And until you figure out, and by the grace of God, I think I'm figuring it out.
Yeah.
Is that it's not just putting the plug in the drug. It's my whole life.
Yeah.
And tearing it down back to ground level.
Yeah.
And rebuilding it myself.
Because putting the plug in the jug is easy, right? Quitting's easy. My sponsor always said, quitting's easy. I've quit 1,000 times. It's the staying quit.
Yeah, exactly. And it's so, when they wrote those three words, cunning, baffling, and powerful.
Yeah.
Those three words are so amazing because it is so cunning. It will figure its way out. This disease will figure, and it'll wait, and it's patient, and it'll wait for you until you're at the most lowest part, and then it will strike, and it'll say, "Do you know what, Darce? Another drink, or a little hit, or a little smoke will help. It will help you out." And like it says, you have no defense against that.
Yeah.
You have no defense against that, and you do it.
So you white knuckled it for a bunch of years,
Yes.
and then what happened?
So then my kids went out west,
Yeah.
and I was left by myself,
Mm.
and so that kind of pain was very hard for me to handle, and so I had no tools in the toolbox,
Yeah.
and I didn't have a sponsor, and
Yeah.
I had nothing except me, and I was broken. And because I didn't have any tools, and so I just slowly but surely picked up.
Yeah.
And you know what, Kevin? I really didn't think I was doing anything wrong because I wasn't drinking.
Yeah.
I was just doing something else.
Yeah.
So I said, well, that's not my
Yeah.
problem.
And there's part of that delusion, right?
That's right.
Convincing yourself that, well, hey, at least I'm not drinking.
That's right.
Yeah.
And like the disease was still like living inside me,
Yeah.
and so I just spiraled. And this disease decides to wrap its arms around you and just bring you into this false place of reality,
Yeah.
and says, you know what, I'm here for you, and it's such a lie.
Yeah.
It's such a lie. But that's the only thing that we have, that as addicts or as alcoholics, we believe that.
Yeah.
That's all we do have, because it's been there for us.
So how many years did you go on using?
So I went on for another 18 years.
Wow.
Yeah. And I saw what sobriety was giving me, and I saw a little bit of the light.
Yeah.
But I really didn't think, it was hard for me to figure out that I was spiraling back down into that hole again.
Yeah. The progression.
Yeah.
So what was there a defining moment for you to come back this time?
Well, it was a few things. I was just about ready to be kicked out onto the street.
Yeah.
I had spent all this money that I had got.
Yeah.
And I was headed for the street,
Yeah.
and I didn't think I was going to survive out there. And so I was scared.
Yeah.
I was scared. I like I said before, I wanted to get off this ride, but I really didn't know how. So the day that it was a few things. I was talking to my daughter one day, and we usually talk on a weekly basis,
Yeah.
like a couple of times a week. And at this time, when I was using, my daughter, she stopped talking to me. And it was 1 week went by, and 2 weeks went by, and 3 weeks, and I said, well, what's going on? And I don't know if I was looking for an argument or a fight or something, but I phoned her up and I said, so why aren't you calling me? Why, what's going on? And she said, do you want the truth, Dad? And I said, okay. And she says, because when I call, it's all about you. It's all about you. It's what you had for dinner. It's what you did today.
Yeah,
it's what
yeah.
you're doing tomorrow.
Yeah.
You don't ask about me. You don't ask how my day was or how my day was with my partner.
Yeah.
Or it's all about you. And at that moment, Kev, I said to myself, I said, if I continue with this argument, she's going to hang up on me,
Yeah.
and she's never going to talk to
Yeah.
me again.
Yeah.
And I started to cry, and she said, "So why are you crying, Dad?" And so I kind of said, "Well, I'm sad and I'm lonely." But she's much smarter than that. She
Yeah.
said, "Are you doing drugs, Dad?" and it was the first time I decided that I should get honest,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
So I faced up to it, and so I told her, I said yes, and her and her sister are very close,
Mm-hmm.
and my other daughter was in charge of the money that I had, because I thought if I give it to my daughter to give to me, then I could regulate my drug abuse.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so one daughter talked to the other daughter, and And then I got a phone call from the oldest daughter, and she said, "Dad, you're cut off. That's it." And I was ready. I was ready to say, "That's it."
So it's almost like a God thing, right?
Yeah. It was a cluster of things that happened.
Yeah. All those outside circumstances. Yeah.
Yeah. So I.
So what'd you do?
So I phoned up. I knew there was an old friend of mine that I went to rehab with 23 years ago, or 25 years ago, and I knew he was still in the program.
Yeah.
And God put him in my life because I was working at a retirement home, and he came in for some reason.
Yeah.
And I saw him there, and it was like, "Hey, do you remember me?" And so we had this hug, and I laid on this little bit of, BS. I just said
a little bit of the pity potty.
Well, I said, I don't drink it. I still don't drink, but I smoke a little bit of pot. I'm not that bad. But I wasn't going to tell him how bad I was.
Even though he probably knew by looking at you.
Probably, yeah. And so I knew that he was in the program, and so I picked up the phone, and that's what I needed to do. I had to pick up the phone and ask for help, and so I called him, and he took me to my first meeting.
Yeah,
and so I remember at the first meeting they have the chip system there, and they said, does anybody have a desire to do something with their life, to start their day anew?
And what did he do, kick you?
And no. I guess I just got up and I walked over and I picked up that coin and that's where my journey started again. And I pray that this time it works, because I can't do it again. I don't want to go back there. I'm so scared to go back.
We talk about that a lot in recovery, right? That I don't have one more in me.
Yeah.
So one of the things that I wanted to talk about tonight was, because
we're not done yet.
No.
Okay.
Step one is really important for us, right?
It's very important.
And there's a lot of misconceptions about step one. And we hear a lot of things about step one in the rooms, right? There's a lot of sayings around step one. It's the only step that you have to do 100%. And, there's a lot of sayings and whatnot. But I want to get to the heart of step one. And and the way that I always look at step one is it says we admitted that we're powerless. And so what does powerless mean to you?
Well, I was just reading the other day about powerlessness, and it's can't. It's CAN''T, can't. And what is can't? And can't means that powerless is that if somebody said to me, Darcy, I have 1,000-pound weight and I need it moved, and I need you to move it. Move it. And I lift it, and I try, and I pry, and I prod at it. And I work at it for hours and days and hours and years. And I can't move it.
Yeah.
That means that I am powerless over it.
Yeah.
I cannot move it. I cannot stop it. I cannot change it. I cannot lift it. I cannot do anything. So the word can't. I can't. And it's capital letters or whatever you want to put it.
Yeah.
It's powerlessness means I can't.
Yeah. I always remember one of the lecturers at the Basils meeting, and he used to do this analogy on powerless, and he was saying, if you take a bunch of laxatives and use your power to stop from pooing your pants, right? Yeah, that's how much power you have.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
there is no power.
Yeah, and when it says powerless, what are we powerless over?
We're powerless over alcohol or the drug.
Yeah.
So what I say is that it's an allergy.
Yeah.
And my theory is that if I'm allergic to strawberries, I cannot eat a strawberry because I get a rash. If I take any mood altering or mind altering drug into my body, then I have a reaction. And the reaction is that I want more.
Yeah.
And just, people that are not alcoholic and or don't have a problem with addiction, they don't understand that. But the people that do have it really understand that once I have this, it's just this planted seed inside me that it wants to be fueled. Yeah. And it will not take no for an answer.
The adverse or the opposite side of the coin for powerlessness is control. And why do we like control so much?
Why do we like control so much? Well, we think we have control.
Well, yes. Yeah. Okay. Let me rephrase that. We think we have control.
We think
but
we have.
Why do we like to think we have control?
I think we think that we want that kind of security, that if we are in control of our bodies and our mind, that we're secure within ourselves, and that we've put this wall or this barrier around us that says, okay, now you can't hurt me or do anything to me. So it's the security. Yeah, that's what.
I always looked, for when I look at control in my life, and there were a few areas that really kind of shocked me when I got sober, and I liked control because it allowed me to think that I could continue using the way that I was, because I convinced myself that if I really wanted to stop, I could, so it's not a problem. And then the other reason that I like control is I like to exert my will on others so that I could use and drink the way that I wanted to.
Manipulation,
right? Mm-hmm. And it basically just allows me, the bottom of it is it allows me to use or drink the way that I think I should be able to, or that I need to.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's more the need.
What about powerless over people, places, and things?
Well, do you want it now or then? Because I'm a little bit smarter now.
Yeah.
But then it would be if you didn't go my way, if you didn't do what I wanted, if the world didn't revolve around me, and you guys didn't do it, then you were blacklisted.
Yeah.
You were part of the problem.
Yeah.
And that then I could not be around you.
Yeah.
And so when I had these issues with people, places, and things, I would work so hard in convincing myself that it was them and not me. It couldn't be me. It was never me. It wasn't me. It was them.
Yeah.
And so I would look at that.
Yeah.
And it would go over and over and over in my head that I would convince myself that it was completely their fault. And I was an innocent bystander in the whole thing.
Yeah.
And so that's what I did.
Yeah.
Now it's not like that. There has to be a part in it because it's affecting me. So I have to play a part in it. So I have to find out what my part is in that, and then look at and say, okay, where did I go wrong? What did I say wrong? What did I do wrong?
What did I think wrong?
What did I think wrong?
Yeah. The second half of step 1 says that our lives had become unmanageable.
Not mine. Wrong. No.
Next.
Yeah. Unmanageability.
Unmanageability.
Incredible. My life was chaos.
Yeah.
But I would even till this day, you kind of say it was a controlled chaos. It's such a load.
Yeah.
It was such a load because there was nothing that I did that was manageable.
Yeah. There was nothing uniform or organized.
Except wake up.
Yeah.
I woke up.
Yeah.
That's about it.
Yeah.
Because then as soon as my feet hit the ground, then the unmanageability hit.
Yeah.
And so it was from lies to manipulation as soon as I got out of bed.
Yeah.
To unhealthy eating, to to calling the dealer or calling the liquor store or whatever, and just starting off and saying, and I would look at the world and say, but you guys made me like this. You screwed me over somehow. That I need to do this. I need to. This is how I function now.
Yep. The big. You would too if you were me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
And the other one, sorry, you don't understand.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But my unmanageability, my whole life was chaotic. Like there was nothing. There was no structure.
Yeah.
There was no sense of structure.
Yeah.
There was no discipline. There was no responsibilities. Like honestly.
What about consequences?
Consequences, I would usually sweep them under the carpet, or I would do that thing like I just did and say the controlling thing or whatever, and say it was their fault.
Yeah,
they made me do this. It was if they phoned me up, it was their fault. They phoned me up. It was
It's a total lack of ownership or responsibility.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. And don't take ownership or responsibility for anything.
Yeah.
Yeah. How is that? How do you grow like that? How do you become a person? How do you become a human being? How do you become a father? How do you become a man? How do you become? You can't.
Yeah.
You stay a child. You stay a spoiled little child.
Yeah. One of the other things that I wanted to talk about, I mean, not only the unmanageability of our lives, of what's around us, but also the unmanageability of our thinking.
Well, for me, the unmanageability for my thinking was the getting and using of more. How would I get more? Mm-hmm. How could I use more? Mm-hmm. And so as soon as I woke up and my feet hit the ground, I would be plotting how to, and that is completely unmanageable thinking as it is how could I get more, and how, so it would be manipulation, it would be lies, it would be deceit, it would be theft, it would be, there was so many things that I would do that's unmanageable, that thinking is completely wrong, that I would be doing, because that's what I thought was right,
and the justification behind that thinking as well, right?
Yeah. Well, they got lots of money.
Yeah,
they don't need it today. Yeah. I don't have to pay my landlord now. He has 2 houses. I would justify it and rationalize it so many times that I would turn it around and say it's not my fault. And then as soon as I picked up and I used, well, then the world was great.
Yeah.
Then the world was great, and then you could call me, and I'd say, I'm so sorry. I apologize. I would be whatever you wanted me to be.
Yeah.
I was called a chameleon.
Yes.
Because that's what I was.
Yeah.
Until when I got my drugs or I got my alcohol. Until then, but when I did get it, I was a chameleon. I could be anything you wanted.
I remember my sponsor and I having a conversation about unmanageability, and I remember telling him that the unmanageability to me, when I first came into this program, the unmanageability to me was that I would go to the liquor store and buy a 26er, and I would say to myself, I'm only going to drink a 26er tonight. That's it. Yeah. So I'm only buying a 26er. And I would take the bus home, and by the time I got home, it was half gone. And then an hour later, I'd be back on the bus to the liquor store. And that's when I would say to myself, shit, my life's unmanageable.
Yeah.
Why aren't I buying a 40? Well, what am I doing? Why do I keep doing this? Yeah. This is stupid.
The same thing with me with my drugs was, all I need to do is I'll just get a little bit. That's all I need to take off the edge. That's all I need. Get a little bit, take off the edge. I would do it, and it'd be gone. It was like, how did it go away so fast? Somebody must be here. Yeah, somebody has to be here, And then I'd think somebody's under my table or in my closet or behind the shower curtain. There had to be somebody that was stealing it.
Yeah,
So I did that all the time. That I would, And so I would get a little bit, and then I'd always have to get more. And the thing that I used to say, Kevin, was how do you eat an elephant? And so this was my thinking, and my logic was, I can't eat an elephant in one bite. So I'll get a little bit, and then I'll work to get more, and I'll get more, and then I'll get more, and so I would do a little bit. I would go through the whole withdrawal thing. I need more. I got to find. So I'd phone up people, borrow money, steal money, get money, tell my dealer that I'd pay him back tomorrow. I pay him double. I pay him triple.
Yeah.
You know, I would, whatever it took, I would do to get more.
Yeah.
And so, so that's how I look at it, is how do I eat an elephant? Because I knew that I needed an elephant each time I got high.
Yeah.
But it wouldn't be in my head.
Yeah.
All I'd say is I just need a little.
Yeah.
And just to get the things out of my head.
Yeah.
You know, I just need
to get rid of the fear, get rid of the guilt, the shame, the resentments.
Get rid of those people that piss me off all day long.
Yeah.
You know? It was their fault.
Well, of course.
That's why I'm back here.
Yeah.
You know, because,
Yeah. If it wasn't for them.
Life would have been so much easier.
Yeah.
Yes. Because the world revolved around me.
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about the mental obsession. You know, we know that there's two facets to this disease, and one of them is this mental obsession. What did the mental obsession look like in your life?
The mental obsession was, well, it would be, I remember that I would become restless, irritable, and discontent when I didn't have it.
Yeah.
But just knowing that on Friday or in 2 hours' time or in an hour's time that I was going to get my relief was so calming to me. It would change my whole mood. Like I would come in the house and I'd be like so angry at the whole world. Then I'd make a call. Could you help me out, buddy? He'd say, sure, but it's going to take me about an hour.
Yeah.
No problem.
Yeah,
You're the best.
Yeah.
Love you.
Yeah.
You know?
Even when he'd show up 6 hours later.
That's right.
Yeah.
I hate him. Oh, he's here.
He's here.
Oh, thanks.
Buddy.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay, see ya. Love you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, so the mental obsession, that's the scariest thing for me, because my brain is broken, and it will tell me what alcohol and drugs does for me.
Yes.
So it will so it says, Darcy, do you know what? It's going to make you feel better.
Yeah.
It's going to relieve you from that pain. And that is a constant.
Yeah.
It's a constant for life.
Yeah.
And so I have to be aware of that.
Yeah.
And so it always will tell me what it would do for me, but it never tells me what it did to me.
Yeah.
And what it did to me was so awful that you would shoot that person if they did that to you.
Oh yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
And
if you're living in that constant state, like for myself, it was fear. And so when you're living in constant fear, and your mind knows, your neurological pathways are concrete strong, and they know that if I go and drink, that fear goes away. And so every time I'm in fear, there's no decision. There's no should I, shouldn't I. No, it's, you know.
Yeah.
Like I can remember having an argument with my boss, and as soon as the argument was done, the first thought in my head was,
I need a drink.
I need a drink. Like now. Like right now.
Mm-hmm.
Go to my locker. Take a slug.
Yeah.
Yeah. No thought, no, you know.
No thought. There's no thought.
There's no thought.
It's I need a drink and I need it now.
Yeah.
And I'm going.
Yeah. And so if you're living in that state of constant fear and tension, what choice do we have?
Right.
Right?
But the scariest thing, I think, is that we make these decisions in a sober state.
Of course.
Where we're straight and we're clean and we say, okay, I need a drink.
Yeah.
And so what does that say about the disease? Is that I don't have to be high or I don't have to be drunk to make a bad decision.
Yeah.
I make a bad decision way before that, and that's when I'm clean and sober.
Yeah. And if you've had any kind of trauma in your life or some early childhood trauma, and you're constantly living in that mental state of guilt or shame, it's constantly with you.
It plays a huge part.
Huge part.
Yeah.
And so
it's like the side buddy. It's
that's
like
right.
the sidecar.
Yeah.
It's like the vodka, and then he's the orange juice.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it comes with it.
Yeah.
And so you get a double hit. And that is powerlessness.
Yeah.
Because you see this and you go, how am I going to survive? How am I going to get out of this?
Yeah.
And a lot of people, they don't have the tools to say no.
Yeah.
And the desire is so overwhelming.
Even in sobriety, we tend to lack the tools to say no.
It's like we need to have that pause, and sometimes we don't get that pause.
Yeah.
And a friend of mine said, for every year you have sobriety, you have 1 second of pause.
Yeah.
So for you have 10 years coming up, or 10 years.
Yeah.
That's 10 seconds.
Yeah.
That's a lot of time.
Yeah.
But for the newcomer, he's got 1 second to make that decision.
Yeah.
Very scary.
Very scary.
Very scary.
Yeah.
And so that's why we have to give always the newcomer as many tools as possible.
Yeah.
Because that's the only way.
Yeah. Get a sponsor.
They have
Get
to
a sponsor.
Yeah.
Get a sponsor.
Get a sponsor.
The other half of this equation in AA they say allergy, and NA they say compulsion. They're both the same thing. And that's the physical aspect of this disease, and that's the inability to stop once we have started.
Right.
Give me an example of that compulsion in your life.
Oh, well, I remember. Oh, there's so many.
Yeah.
But one that sticks out is that I was going out with this girl, and it was one of her friends' weddings. A friend of hers was getting married, and so we were invited to the wedding, and we decided to get a little bit of stuff beforehand and do it. And so we did one, and then that was great. Let's do one more before we go, and we did one more, and then it was like, okay, well, I'm a little high, so let's slow down, and then I said, well, let's take one for the road. So we did another one, and then I started getting very paranoid, and then I said, I don't think I'm ready to go out yet. I can't go out now. So then I would wait till I calmed down, until I got a clear head, and the only thing I did was, when I got a clear head, was saying, okay, let's do another. So this went on and on and on all night long, until we missed the whole wedding.
Wow.
And we never even went.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And imagine somebody at the altar waiting for their buddy. Where is he? Where is she? Well, and they started. Well, if they're not addicts, they don't understand that. They just think they're crap.
Yeah.
Those are crappy friends.
Yeah.
And which we were.
Well, of course.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because we were self-centered. It was only about us, right?
Yeah. But they don't understand.
Well, it's sad. It's very sad.
So, I guess I'll give one back to you.
Okay.
To make this fair.
Sure.
Yeah. So I remember going to my brother's for a Thanksgiving dinner, and he was quite adamant on that I was drinking too much, and maybe I had a problem, and of course I had denied everything that he had said, and so I went over for dinner, and they had wine with dinner, and I remember the glass being poured in front of me, and I poured, let them pour a half a glass, and I said, no, that's enough, and I had dinner, and I drank maybe half of that half a glass of wine, and I was so damn proud of myself, because I had this smugness that I had proven to them that they were wrong, and that I was able to handle my liquor, and I don't drink like they think I drink, and I've just shown you Now you can all
Leave me alone.
leave me alone. And I hopped in the car, and what did I do?
You booted right for
Booted
the LCBO.
right for the LCBO.
How do I know that? How do I know that?
Right? And
Because I would do the exact same thing.
Yeah.
We started something.
But was still proud of myself. Right?
Well, of course.
Now I had this,
of course, because you have one up on them.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
And you fooled them all.
Yeah.
I fooled them all.
Yeah.
But we always fooled them all. But
Of
we never
course.
fool. But the fool is us.
Yeah.
The fool
Yeah.
is really us.
And so when I look back on that, because I remember working with my sponsor in early recovery, and he made me give 10 examples of where I see the allergy and 10 examples where I see the obsession in my life. And I look back and I could have not gone to the liquor store. And so as I'm talking to him about it, I realized, well, why didn't I go? Or, why didn't I just avoid that and go home?
Mm-hmm.
And that's because
you have the allergy.
I have the allergy.
Mm-hmm.
And once it's in my system,
It can't. Nothing will stop us.
yeah, we're off to the races.
And it's horrible. But people don't understand. They say, I remember my ex-wife. She gave me. It was Christmas Day, and she said, well, let's have a Bailey's and coffee.
Yeah.
And so she gave me, and I was trying to quit, and so she gave me a Bailey's and coffee, and I drank it, and then I said, well, can I have one more? And she said yes. And so she gave me one more. Well, the fuel was started.
Yeah.
And then I wanted it all.
Yeah.
I wanted more.
Yeah.
And she said, why can't you just have a couple and stop?
Yeah.
And stop. And that was one of the best questions that was ever asked of me, because I had no idea. I had no answer.
Yeah.
I just knew that once I started,
Yeah.
I used to say, I don't want to stop.
Yeah.
It's not that I couldn't.
Yeah.
I don't want to stop.
Yeah.
But I could
Well,
not stop.
that's the other irrational thinking that I always had was, why do we drink? Like, you drink to get absolutely pie-eyed. Why else would you drink? Like, I couldn't understand people who would go to a bar and have a beer
And go
and
home?
then go home.
Why?
Why?
Why would you waste your time?
Why would you spend $5 to go home?
Yeah.
Like,
No, you have to spend all the money. You have to spend it all.
Like
You have
I
to
just
make-
couldn't comprehend that.
You have to
Well,
make
why
an
would you
idiot
drink
of yourself.
one?
Yeah. Yeah, that doesn't make sense.
It doesn't make sense.
Or leave half of it there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. My mom.
My daughter.
Infamous.
My daughter
for leaving a half a glass of wine.
Yeah.
I could never understand that. Why would you even drink the half glass to begin with? Why don't you have a Kool-Aid?
Yeah.
A pop?
My daughter, she says, I start feeling weird. I
Yeah,
don't like it.
yeah.
I really don't like
Yeah.
it. I go, what? What do you mean? What do you mean you don't like it? She says, I have two of them. Oh,
Yeah.
and then I don't feel
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
And I want to stop.
Yeah.
And she says, I'd rather just not drink.
Yeah.
And I go, really?
Yeah. My wife says that.
I say,
Because she doesn't. I mean, she'll have a glass of red wine once in a blue moon.
but then I think something's wrong with her.
Yeah. Well, that's what I said. Something's wrong with you.
Yeah, but it's
you know?
not. It's not.
Yeah, have 2 sips of wine at a friend's house and then just push the glass aside. I'm like, what's wrong with you?
No, no.
You know?
You got to empty it. That's only polite.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
polite.
you're making me feel bad.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Too much.
So at the root of all this, in step 1, is this self-centeredness we have.
The self-centered, the spiritual malady.
The spiritual malady.
It's incredible how self-centered that one person becomes. And I've had a lot of time to think about this.
Yeah.
And I think as in my childhood, it was survival.
Yeah.
Because there was 5 of us in the family. My father passed away when I was very young, and so my mother was the only one, and it was survival. When you got to the table, it was like get the potatoes or get the meat or whatever, and you want the best seat, you better be there, and and it was survival, and that's I think where my self-centeredness started.
Yeah.
But then with the alcohol, then it just exploded, and it was all about me.
Mm-hmm.
It's all about me, and I look at
So for those people who may be listening that don't really understand that, what does that mean? It's all about me.
Well, okay, so I have this thing. It's called LAGWIPSID.
Yeah.
And so I use the acronym LAGWIPSID, LAGWISIDD. And so I look at this to look at my self-centeredness. And the first one is low frustration. And so every time when I get frustrated, when I was using or that, I would look at these people and say, you know what? You're making me very frustrated.
Yeah.
And I would get so upset that I would go over and use.
Yeah.
Then we could go to anxious. When I became anxious,
Yeah.
I would say, okay, I need to have a drink.
Yeah.
I need to use. I need to calm down. I need you out of my life. So there's all the anxious things that I think. Then there's what LAG, the grandiose thinking. So the large grandiose thinking was the highs, that I'm the best in the world, that I had the greatest day, I deserve a drink. And then the grandiose low, where the grandiose low was that I felt like a piece of crap. And I had the worst day ever. So that would give me reason to use. Then there's the wishful thinking. If only you people would leave me alone. If only you did what I wanted you to do. If only you did that, then life would be so much better. But you don't. So I need to use. And then there's so that's the W. Then the I is for isolation. So I would use isolation to use and push everybody away because it was all about me. That's my self-centeredness. WSI is okay. So where am I now?
Isolation.
Isolation. IS. Oh no. WLAG. WISS is for what? Sensitivity.
Yeah.
So the sensitivity would be that you hurt my feelings.
Can't you take a joke?
Yeah. And everybody they think that I'm supposed to be this jolly person, and I have feelings too.
Yeah.
So that was the sensitivity. And then there's the the D for defiant.
Yeah.
So D for defiant was.
I'm not doing this.
I'm not doing that. So you stay away from me.
Yeah.
It's your fault.
I think we were talking about that earlier.
Yeah. Some people love to be defiant. I'm still very defiant.
Well, and so that brings me. Does that go away when we stop using or drinking?
No, it doesn't.
Yeah.
No, it doesn't. It hasn't gone away from me, but it gives me time to pause and to relook at it and to look at it, because I wish I had, and I don't really, but if a little bell was on my shoulder, it would be going off on a constant basis, but it would be telling me, it would be teaching me that you know what, you're being self-centered again, you're being self-centered again. So
and that's I always use this little story that like I don't think it ever goes away. The selfishness, the self-centeredness, it's how we manage it, right?
Right.
Because if someone brought in a plate with 3 donuts on it right now and put it in front of you and me, my mind automatically says,
I get 2.
I'm getting 2.
Right.
Right?
See, I would give you.
But it's what I do with that thinking, right?
Yeah, that's right.
I got to stop it. At least, part of this spiritual malady is forming that relationship with God, so that God speaks to me and says, "No, Kevin, stop what you're doing. Stop this thinking. Darcy's a guest.
Right.
You offer him the 3rd donut after we each have one, because that's the right thing to do.
Right.
And you're not a selfish, self-centered SOB anymore, right?
Yes.
But I still thought it.
Right. And you will always think it.
Yeah.
You'll think it, but you don't act on it.
Yes.
That's the difference now. I cannot control my thoughts, but I can control my actions.
Yeah, that's right.
And so
this is a program of?
This is a program of action.
Yeah.
Yes. So that's why and it's a learning. It's very hard. It's very hard, but it's learning is hard. It should be hard.
Yeah.
It should be hard. And so we take it one day at a time, one step at a time. And if I didn't have people in my life like you, Kevin, that could help me out, I would be lost. And so thanks.
Well, that's the step 12 of this program, right?
Yeah.
One of the things I wanted to talk about, because I came across this post the other day, and it says, "I only drink a little, but when I do, I turn into another person, and that person smokes crack." Right. What are your thoughts on that? There's for me the thinking behind that is because we hear a lot in this fellowship, and there's the marijuana maintenance program, and you said it earlier when we were talking. You would quit drinking, but
I started using.
But you started using again.
Yeah.
And the thinking behind that was, at least I'm not drinking.
That's right.
Yeah.
Alcohol was my problem.
Yeah.
And drugs is not my problem.
Yeah. And what's the truth?
They're all the problem. I'm the problem.
I'm the problem.
I'm
yeah.
the problem.
But
right.
one leads to another. It may not be now, may not be next week, it may not be in 6 months from now.
Right.
Because I've tried the marijuana maintenance program.
Right.
I would puff a joint while I drove to the meeting. I'd arrive at the meeting 5 minutes late, so I didn't have to talk to anybody outside. I would sit at the back of the room with my back to the wall, so that I was outside, not a part of, apart from. And then 5 minutes before the meeting was over, I didn't want to hold hands and say the serenity prayer, and I would boogie, and I'd hop in my car, and I'd drive home, and I'd puff a joint on the way home, and I'd get home, and I'd say, wow, this recovery stuff is beautiful.
It's simple.
It's simple.
That's right.
Yeah. What are all these people doing?
Right. Well, when I was in recovery the first time, I had stopped drinking, but I kept on smoking pot or hash. And the doctor called me in, and because we had to fill in this whole form. And when's the last time you did this? When's the last time you did that? And so when it came to smoke marijuana, it said, when's the last time you did that? Well, I said yesterday.
Yeah.
And you're supposed to be abstinent for a month or 2 months or something like that. So I get this, Mr. Carroll, could you come into the office? And I'm in rehab up at Meadow Creek or whatever. And anyways, the doctor brings me in. And he says, I hear that you're smoking marijuana. And I said, yes. And I said, well, but alcohol is my problem. You told me to stop drinking. You didn't tell me to stop smoking. So he says, well, they're all mood-altering drugs.
Yeah.
And so he said, Darcy, maybe alcohol isn't your drug of choice.
Yeah.
Or your preference.
Your go-to.
Maybe it's heroin. Maybe it's crack cocaine.
Yeah.
Maybe it's we don't know.
Yeah.
But you will, if you do that, you will end up back here in the same place. Eventually in the same mess or even worse.
Yeah.
And I didn't believe that.
Yeah.
And did I? Yes.
Yeah.
I was in the worse mess than when I came in the first time, because the disease had continued through my body.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
okay, one more, because we want some time for question and answer.
Sure.
Eventually, every addict has their last high. Those of us who got clean get to talk about ours.
Okay, what was that again? Sorry?
Eventually, every addict has their last high. Those of us who got clean get to talk about ours.
Yeah, well, because we do lose people.
Yeah.
We do lose people. We lose people to this addiction.
It's
awful.
It's awful, but it's been really awful the last year and a half with COVID.
Yeah. And so we have to get the word out. We have to have donations. We have to have people backing us, backing this kind of forum.
Yeah.
Because there's people out there that they're lost.
Yeah.
They don't know where to turn.
Yeah.
They don't know how to do it. They're waiting in line to get into rehab or into some kind of place to fix themselves. And in the meantime, they're dying.
Yeah.
Because because the government or whatever can't fund them.
Yeah.
I don't see. There's a huge problem.
Yeah.
That we don't care. Do we not care about the people?
Yeah.
So it's very sad.
What do you think, as a society, we have to do? Like, what are some of the first steps we have to do to start helping people get well?
I think we have to be open and honest and vulnerable and willing to do anything to help anybody.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what, and just do your little part. I call it the ripple effect.
Hit me.
It doesn't have to be big.
Yep.
It just has to be something small.
Yep.
And you start that ripple, and they pay it forward.
Yep.
And just keep on doing good tasks for good people and for things for people. And you know what? You see somebody out there that needs a helping hand, well, stop and say, do you need some help?
Yeah.
If they say no, thank you, well, at least you stop.
Yeah.
If somebody gives you more money than you expect, give it back. If somebody loses a telephone on the bus, bring it up to the bus driver. Don't put it in your pocket and keep it. You know, it's true. But, you know, it's these little things. If we do these little things, the big things will take care of themselves.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
I had a good friend of mine, Pastor John Ruby, and he drilled into my head, and I'm so thankful for him. It's so simple, right? Do the little things, and the big things will take care of themselves.
Yeah.
If we can't do the little things, we'll never do the big things.
That's right.
Okay, I want you to read your letter, because you read it to me before, and I think it's a beautiful piece of writing, and I
All right.
to kind of wrap up our hour here.
Okay. Well, this was when I was in rehab, I was asked to write a breakup letter to my drugs of choice, and so I wrote this letter to it. So I'll read it. It's to my mood altering love. To my mood altering love, I have come to a decision in my life that will affect both of us. I'm sure that you will continue doing the same thing. But now I must take a new path without you. It was so long ago when we first met. I really don't remember the exact date or anniversary, but that doesn't really matter. What does matter is how I feel about you today. When we first met, I was anxious, nervous, a little scared, and excited. A whole gamut of feelings. I remember how happy you made me feel. You were there for me. You did so many positive things. You gave me courage when I was shy. You made me happy when I was sad. You gave me strength when I felt weak. I remembered that you helped to introduce me to my friends, my first friendships, and my first girlfriend. I would have given my life to you if only you didn't betray me. You were very smart and intelligent, and I believed that until lately, and now I see through you, seeing only selfishness and greed. You lured me into a false place of security. The selfishness I see very clearly now. It was all about you. You wanted every minute of my time, every ounce of my energy. You were never happy unless my full attention was directed towards you. You made us codependent. The greed was another thing. Every dime, nickel, and penny I earned was given to you. Even money that wasn't mine, I gave you. How awful that makes me feel now. I always believed that you were right. How could I have been such a sucker? When it came to my family, as a couple, we decided to put them second or third or last. My decisions always depended on how I was feeling and if it was going to affect my relationship with you. I miss so much of the growing up of my daughters, the birthdays, the graduations, the daily guidance a daughter looks for from their dad. I stole, I lied, I manipulated. I made false promises, never intending on keeping them. All for you and you alone. It has taken me many years, many heartbreaks, many mistakes, and some unforgivable acts to come to this point. Giving up on us will be for sure one of the hardest things I've ever done in my life. But I know without a doubt that I must take this final step. We are like two ships in the night, always knowing we are both around, but never to meet again.
That's unbelievable.
Yes. Well, my higher power helped me write that because he was right there.
Mm-hmm.
Shout out to the higher power.
Shout out to Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you're off the hook. We don't have any questions tonight.
Well, imagine that.
Imagine.
Maybe we answered them all.
Maybe we did, right? I want to, I guess, I aside from thanking you for coming here tonight, I guess I want to tell you how proud I am of your journey. And you've put in so much work in these last 2 years, and you've done everything that was asked of you by your sponsor and by your friends who are a part of your recovery, and may not always initial willingness, but
That's right.
you got there.
Yeah.
And the proof's in the pudding. And it's an honor and a privilege to have you in my life on this journey as well.
Well, thank you.
So I love you very much.
I love you, Kevin.
And John, here we go. So Molly Carroll just wrote in, Dad, we're so proud of you and we love you so much. And Eliza has a question.
Shout out to Eliza.
Shout out to Eliza.
Shout out to Mal.
She says, how do you stay sober day to day when challenges come up? And what keeps you strong in doing that?
Well,
how do you stay sober day to day when challenges come up?
Well, that's a great question. Of course, you'd have to ask me something like that. The big thinker. So the answer is that I have to have structure in my life. I have to have
structure and discipline. Right?
Structure and discipline. And people might say, that's a whole bunch of crap. It is not. For me, I get up every morning. I try to make it to a meeting. Yeah. And then after that, I get on my knees and I start praying to my higher power.
Yeah.
And I pray for guidance, and I pray and I pray to see if I can do His will, not mine.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'll read some more, and then I do some exercise, and I meditate, and then I might go to another meeting or I go to rehab, but I constantly work the program.
Yeah.
And that's the thing is that if I don't work the program, I know that you lose it very quickly.
Yeah.
And so, it's very easy to break a good habit.
You just kind of hit me with something. We hear in the rooms and we hear in recovery circles in the fellowship all the time working the program. What part of that do you take with you every day? For me, it's one day at a time. I have to remind myself that yesterday's done. I can't change it. Tomorrow hasn't arrived yet. There's nothing I can do to make things happen. I just got to worry about today and do the best job that I can do today. What part of that, when you say, work my program, what part of that is
for me,
for you,
for
is
me,
the big one?
The big one is step 3, is turning my will and my life over the care of God.
My thoughts and my actions over the care of God.
Because I honestly, I feel in my whole heart that God wants us to do things for Him. Because He can't. He can't move that pencil.
Yeah.
He can't move that cup, but we can.
Yeah.
And so we have to be able to say, God, if I can be a channel to help you out in your way, in your love, and in your peace, in your will, I am ready to do that.
Yeah.
And if you have that thought process in the morning, each morning, you know what? Life is easy.
Yeah.
Life is so easy because God directs me.
Yeah. Well, that's why I like the 7-step prayer, right? Because it says, to help me go from here to do your bidding.
Yes.
Not mine.
That's right.
Beautiful. Well, thank you, brother.
Thank you,
Kev.
Thank you.
Little end of show announcements. Our next episode is November 11th, and we're talking with Robert Ryan from Serenity Renewal.
Great.
Woo!
Yes.
Another great community partner. They do a lot of great work. Check out their website. And we'll continue with our Voices of Recovery segment here in the Recovery Connection, and we'll update you as we go along. Our podcast will be available in a week on all the major streaming platforms. So you get to, if there's something that you missed or you want to share it with somebody, John does a great job at editing out all our little hums and haws and coughs and stuff like that, and makes it sound really good. And I just thank everybody for joining us tonight. Tell your friends, share it on your social media. And we just are so appreciative of all the support in this community. And
be good to each other.
Be good to each other. Yeah, be nice.
Be nice.
Especially this time, eh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you, my brother.
Thank you.
God bless everybody.
Thank you, everybody.
We'll see you soon.
Take care.